Welcome to Real Demers, where we champion the B-sides, the offbeat, and the overlooked. We've worked in and around Hollywood, so we know just how hard it is to get a movie made. This is our space to celebrate cinematic misfits that we hope you'll enjoy as much as we do. It's 2026, and Supergirl is about to hit theaters. With a Kryptonian hero gracing movie screens, that gives us the opportunity to give another DC flick this Razzie Reeldemption treatment. The much maligned Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Bellavia, and I'm here with
Andres Anglade.
Dear listeners, I'm not going to lie. When Andreas and I first talked about starting a podcast where we could rehabilitate cinematic misfits, today's entry was on my shortlist, and I am thrilled we are diving into it today. Now, to set the stage, I didn't want to watch this for years. I grew up on Christopher Reeve's Superman, and I love those movies. When I was a kid, I have a vivid memory of my mom putting me to bed and like, okay, sweetie, like, good night, we're going to be, and my door to my room bursting open as my dad, Superman's on, like, get up. So like, pulling me out of bed, and then like us like staying up late and watching, like, you're never going to beat like that memory. Superman's theme kicking in when he tricks General Zod in part 2 is one of my favorite scenes of all time. It always gets my blood pumping, even as an adult. And even the super lame part 4, Quest for Peace, still gets a pass thanks to my inner child. I was not in the mood for a grim, dark Superman reboot, so I avoided Man of Steel. I didn't like the idea of rushing into a Batman versus Superman so early, so I tuned that one out. And then when the Justice League trailer hit, it seemed goofy. So just in general, I stayed away from the Snyderverse for years. The word of mouth was toxic, everyone I knew was unimpressed, and today's film was up for 8 Razzies. Worst director, worst screenplay, worst actor, worst supporting actor, worst screen combo, and worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel. Then a funny thing happened. The Snyder Cut of Justice League, the film we were promised was never going to see the light of day, was scheduled to be released on HBO Max. And look, the number one guiding factor for me when it comes to watching movies is morbid curiosity, more than anything else, more than any other reviews or word of mouth or stuff, any other factor. If something gets my curiosity going, and the prospect of watching something that we were told for years was never going to happen was too alluring for me to pass up. And that meant I had to play some catch up. But Andreas, what am I even talking about? What is the Snyderverse?
Greg, many have tried to answer that question. And based on my research, it's not entirely clear. What I used to think the Snyderverse is all the films that Zack Snyder directed. Man of Steel, Dawn of Justice, Justice League, plus those that connected to the overall story introduced in Dawn of Justice and Justice League. So Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, Aquaman, Shazam, and maybe Peacemaker, question mark. Some people, however, call that the DC Extended Universe or DCEU. There's a lot of debate of which films actually fall into the Snyderverse. Some say it's only the one Snyder directed. But wait, there's more. So DC parted ways with Zack Snyder, brought in James Gunn, and dropped the word extended to become the DCU or DC Universe, where we now have all new feature films, animated shows, and streaming shows tackling the beloved characters like Superman, Supergirl, Clayface, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, and Suicide Squad, all under the umbrella of DC Studios. Why does this sound so confusing, you ask? Because DC and Warner Brothers, among many other studios, were all chasing the success of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At the time, they were behemoths at the box office, using structured storylines and characters to bring audiences an intricately connected universe. Because they were first, they took their time to build their massive event films, mainly in the Avengers movies. And when they did have to course correct, it was subtle and not a big deal. When others had to correct, it felt clumsy. Other studios tried to emulate MCU's success. Again, DC with their extended universe, also Sony with their Spider-Villain universe that included Venom, Morbius, and Madam Web. And Warner Brothers decided to build on another character's popularity with what people call the Monsterverse, featuring Godzilla, King Kong, and friends in connected films. Universal even tried their own version called the Dark Universe, and that kicked off with Tom Cruise's The Mummy back in 2017. And it was announced Russell Crowe would play Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Johnny Depp was set as the Invisible Man. Javier Bardem, he was Wolfman, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I remember a big publicity announcement for it, but it never came to be after The Mummy. But bringing it back to the DCEU or Snyderverse, as WB and DC seemed to start to sour on Snyder, rabid fans online were constantly calling for the Snyderverse to continue and also for Zack Snyder's cuts of Justice League and other films to be released.
So, long story short, there's a lot going on. Multiple movies, multiple versions of characters. And yes, as Andreas put it, they attempted to chase what Marvel was doing so well, this interconnected universe with following, multiple characters across different movies and something that's easy to follow and was a mass market success. Now, why Zack Snyder? Well, here's with somebody that had success in the comic book world. 300, based on the Frank Miller comic book series, massive hit. And then Watchmen, arguably the greatest comic series of all time, depending on who you ask. Snyder did a fantastic job in an adaptation. Now, whether or not it's perfect, that's up to debate. But I think for something that's one of the major works of acclaim in the comic book field, I think he did a fantastic job. And I think
also many people claim that particular story could not be adapted, and I think he did a great job with it.
I think he did a great job, and I think we can get into pros, cons, all that jazz. That's a separate conversation. We got a lot to get into here. But long story short, yes, for a project that's virtually unadaptable, I think he did a fantastic job. So if DC's looking to try and counteract the success of Marvel, I get why they're going to a Zack Snyder. That makes sense. So how did we even end up here? So far, so good. That makes sense. Where I think my Greg Belaviec, lifelong comic book fan, and some other folks maybe had some hesitation was his vision was pretty dark if you look at these films. So he's taking these classic beloved characters and maybe spinning them into something that's not as family friendly, let's say, as what Marvel was putting out. Spurred on by the Justice League cut, his full version being released, I watched Man of Steel and I enjoyed it. Now, it's not my personal Superman. It's not going to be able to touch the films that were a part of my DNA growing up, but I could appreciate the angle Snyder was taking. There was something there, and he put his own spin on it. So a few days later, I had an open night where I could set aside 3 hours, and I tackled Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. Now, that is his director's cut with 30 more minutes than the theatrical. 15 minutes in, I thought to myself, when am I supposed to hate this? So far, this is good. And 2 hours and 45 minutes later, I was shocked. Maybe there was a nitpick here or there, and there was a lot happening, and this is the focus of our episode today, but I really, really enjoyed it. I was reeling. I was shocked that I enjoyed it as much as I did. And I told some folks about my conversion, and they were surprised to hear me defending it, but I challenged them. Check out the director's cut. Give it a chance with fresh eyes. And I'm happy to report, I've had multiple friends come back to me and say, even if they don't love it like I do, they don't hate it and might just concede it's pretty good. Andreas, what's your history with the Snyderverse?
I should first say that Superman is my favorite comic book character. He's number one. It's not even close. Growing up in different cultures, I always felt like an outsider. I never really fit in. And I related to the character of trying to find their place amongst everyone else, but also tackling any conflict by being able to see through various perspectives. He taught me empathy, he taught me openness, and he always wants to do the right thing. So Superman, to me, he represents the best of us. He's the one hero I looked up to the most. I try to absorb his comics. I take in all the movies. I never understood when people would say that Superman is a boring character. I think that actually says more about you. I was talking with my mom this past weekend, and I asked her about this Superman cape I had when I was a kid, and she had actually made it for me because we couldn't, living in Germany, a lot of superhero stuff wasn't readily available. So someone had given her the S pattern for the Superman symbol, and she sewed me this cape, and I loved it. I wore it all the time. And at one point, someone had told her that she had sewn it on backwards, but she never told me. She told me later when I was a teenager, and we laughed about it, and we laugh about it now. She was so devastated when that person told her, and she was so worried someone would point it out to me as a kid, because you know how we are as kids, and be like, no, that's not Superman's cape.
Yeah.
And I love that it has this charm to it, that it has this backwards S. And in the comics, Superman's mom made his costume for him.
Yeah.
So I love that part of it too. One of my favorite things that I own, my sister got me in high school. she kept going back to this one particular comic book store, and she kept bugging the people that worked there because she wanted to get me this Superman poster of Superman Peace on Earth by Alex Ross.
Oh, nice.
She was able to get that for me, and she surprised me for my birthday. And I just was so blown away that she did this for me. And when I lived in LA, Alex Ross was doing a signing at Meltdown Comics. So I actually got him to sign it.
Oh, wow.
And I still have it. It survived the fires. It's one of my prized possessions. I love it. So I'm a huge Superman fan. When it was announced that Zack Snyder was going to do Man of Steel, I got excited. I love Superman, but I'm not so precious that he has to fit a specific mold. Mm-hmm. As with anything, characters need to change with the times, not just change with the times, but people have their own interpretations of the character. So I was really open to seeing what Zack Snyder would do with Man of Steel. And maybe this is a hot take, but up until the last 20 minutes of Man of Steel, I think is one of the best Superman movies ever made.
Whoa, I'm okay. I'm surprised. I wasn't sure because we have not talked off mic about that. So that's okay. I hear you. What about what changed in the last 20 minutes?
So the last 20 minutes, we'll spoil it.
Yeah.
At the end of the film, Superman kills Zod. I understand everyone who has issues with that. I have issues with that, but that's not where the film lost me. So to preface it, Jor-El, Superman's Kryptonian dad, tells him, "You're as much a child of Earth now as you are of Krypton. You can embody the best of both worlds. The symbol of the House of El means hope. Embodied within that hope is the fundamental belief in the potential of every person to be a force for good. That's what you can bring them. You can be the bridge between two peoples." To me, that's Superman. The film lost me when Superman is about to destroy Zod's ship. Zod screams, "If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton." And Superman says, "Krypton had its chance." And my heart sunk, because that's not Superman. Mm-hmm. I've seen takes where people embrace that moment as Superman choosing humanity over an idea of Krypton. But to me, you can't just choose between two cultures like that, especially if they're within you. That line that he says, it's too flippant for a character that embraces all cultures, all humanity, all of the universe. And if Cal didn't say the line, but it was more of him pleading, saying, "Zod, please, I have to stop you," then I would get it. You'd see him struggling. But that's not what he does. There's a split second where he hesitates, but then he says that line. So that moment, along with him killing Zod, those hurt me, Greg.
Okay, I get it. Hey, the fact you enjoyed it as much as you did, that's already like surprise number one. An episode I feel is going to be full of surprises.
But I'll say up to those moments, Man of Steel is entertaining, and this rewatch had me liking a lot more than I did previously. The parts I absolutely love. I love Diane Lane as the mom. I think she's so good, and we get her in this film, which I'm sure we'll get into. The moments where he's a child and his powers start to come to him, just that sense of like not belonging and just feeling like you're different. We've all had that as kids where we're just like figuring out what is happening to me, what is happening to the world, what's going on. And then when he gets bullied and all that, I thought Zack Snyder covered that so great. I can't say enough about how much I really enjoyed those parts of Man of Steel. My only other thought, though, is that it is, I said I thought it was one of the best Superman movies we got, but I will say I do think it's too dark of a film for kids. And
okay.
I feel Superman needs to appeal to kids, and Man of Steel felt more catered towards adults, which, again, may have been the intended audience. This is clearly Zack Snyder's take on Superman.
So are you okay with Pa Kent's sacrifice? His death scene in this one? Because I know that's a point of contention with a lot of folks.
I came to terms with it. I can argue both sides of it, but it does bother me a little bit, but I'm willing to look past it. Like if that's the one thing, it's just like, okay, no movie's perfect. I can look past that. If I had made Man of Steel, I would not have put that in my Man of Steel movie.
I think it's an inspired choice. Again, not something Greg Bellavia would put in his Superman movie, but exactly. I can see it and I can see why it's there. And I'm not like, I totally hear you on the ending, but like that. So that's a choice where it's like, well, I wouldn't have done that, but it's cool. And it's your version. The other thing I'll say is in preparation for this, maybe a future episode of something else that we're doing, but that's not to get ahead of ourselves. We had a family movie night and we watched the OG Christopher Reeve Superman. Wonderful, classic, and I'm sure we're referencing that as this episode goes on with some other stuff. But I'll say, Man of Steel is Superman 1 and Superman 2 stapled together. It's a Superman origin story, and it's him running up against General Zod and his forces trying to take over Earth, which are plot points in both the two films. So I do think Man of Steel is a good quality flick, but it's funny because it's up against two absolute stone cold classics of the genre. So it's almost like that's a tough first assignment jumping in to the Snyderverse, where you're literally going to by default being compared to two of the greatest films that the genre has to offer.
Yeah, and look, I should say for the listeners, I love the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, and I like the James Gunn film. Again, I'm open to interpretations of Superman, but I do think there are core aspects of it that need to be followed, and we'll get into a little bit more of that discussion as we get into our main film.
But I think so, as Andres put it, this is dark stuff, and like it's not for all ages. Like I would gladly watch Superman with my kids, like the Christopher Reeve one. Man of Steel, not as much. It's, I would probably wait a few years. Different strokes for different folks when it comes to what you show your families, but it's his vision. This is not by mistake. He knows what he's doing, and like he wants to tackle darker, quote unquote, more realistic stuff. Mark Miller dove into this when he did the Ultimates, like a more like quote unquote realistic version of the Avengers. It's not like Frank Miller's take on the character, Alan Moore's take on these characters. So this isn't new. We've had plenty of creators over the years that have taken more family-friendly stuff designed for children and given an adult spin. That's not, but like to see it up on the big screen, and as Andres put, with flagship characters. It's not like some dark and gritty creeper movie. Now, how many people are defending the creeper out there? This is literally, Superman's up there, and now here's Batman. So, Batman v Superman. What are we talking about today?
Coming off Man of Steel, I remember when Batman v Superman was announced. My reaction to it was that DC was just trying to chase the MCU. Like that was my first initial reaction. And I feel like back then I was also that guy who was annoyed that they were introducing a new Batman so close to the Christopher Nolan version. And sure, Dark Knight Rises came out in 2012. This film came out in 2016. It sounds like it's only 4 years, which is a long time, but the constant chatter online about who would play the new Batman and speculation about it shrunk those 4 years down to what felt like a month. Yep. And side note, did you know Scott Adkins auditioned for Batman?
Ooh, they should make like a knockoff, like the Asylum should make like a knockoff Batman movie with Scott Adkins.
Maybe he needs to audition for the James Gunn universe of Batman. Could be fun. So I wasn't too keen. I didn't end up seeing this in the theaters. I wasn't ready for it. So when you said you really wanted to do it and you're a big defender of the Snyderverse, I said, bring it on. Let's do it.
And I'll say, it's funny, DC wanted Batman versus Superman to happen. Not a Batman-Superman world's finest. They wanted these two motherfuckers to fight each other in a film. Word on the street, they're trying to get something off the ground with Wolfgang Peterson for the longest time. I write a script online for that. It's a little all over the place, but they're trying to introduce so much. I mean, think about all the, we're going to get into this in a second. There's a ton of stuff going on in this movie, but think about trying to get this off the ground without Man of Steel. So at least Man of Steel sets some stuff up here that then carries over. That Wolfgang Peterson script, that one is, they're trying to introduce everything at the same time, so it's very busy. That didn't end up coming through. A couple years ago in the movie I Am Legend, that's one of the posters in like the abandoned city. So it's always, we want these guys to fight. So part of it is, I don't know if that's by design by Zack Snyder. I think it's DC like, hey, let's jump out of the gate. These are flagship characters. Let's get them together. So part of my hesitation was Marvel built to Civil War. And Civil War is awesome because they had plenty of time to like lay the groundwork and who are these characters and what are they fighting for? And to just all of a sudden like, all right, here's our two big guys that haven't fight. To me, without seeing the film, a level of desperation to that. Well, they're just trying to go all in immediately and just kind of hope for the best. And that put my defenses up, and I just didn't want to engage with it.
Same.
What is Batman versus Superman? Okay, still reeling from the events of Man of Steel, Superman wrestles with being the most powerful figure on Earth and congressional hearings about his actions. Meanwhile, the street-level vigilante Batman deals with his own PTSD and his growing paranoia about having a powerful alien living on his planet. Fueling their midlife crises is deranged Nepo billionaire Lex Luthor, who has his own interest in the heroes, along with the mysterious Diana Prince. Thankfully, intrepid reporter Lois Lane realizes there is some kind of conspiracy at play and works to expose Luthor's schemes before it's too late. All right, so in this film, we've got a direct sequel to Man of Steel, an introduction to Batman. Okay, now they got to fight. We've got Lois Lane unraveling a mystery. We've got a Wonder Woman introduction. We've got to plant seeds for people that are going to pop up in a Justice League movie. And oh, right, Doomsday shows up and, spoiler alert, kills Superman.
It's a lot.
That's a lot in the second film in a franchise. That's something that would be like 10 films in to this. They're pulling in all these characters, and here we are, and it's this big. That could have been the original Avengers Infinity War. Nope, we're going to get that out of the way in the second DC EU film. I've seen this before. Andreas, the floor is yours.
This is a great Batman film that Superman and Wonder Woman happen to be in. This is an epic film. Its ambition is off the charts. But wow, is it dark. Look, I could go on and on about how it's not a movie for kids, but I'm not going to. Let's talk about the film as is. I think Zack Snyder just really wanted to make a Batman movie. The way he sets Batman up when we first see him is taking on some sort of human trafficking deal. And then he brands the guy. I think that's a great scene. It's intense. It's dark. It's what a Batman scene should be. And this Batman kills. Look, it's a take. It may not be my take, but looking past their treatment and enjoying the film for what it is, I like the investigative dynamic of Lois Lane and figuring out what's going on. I enjoyed this film. The parts that I think are the weakest are the ones where they are trying to shoehorn in the rest of the universe.
I agree. I agree with you 100%. Whose movie is this? It's Batman's movie. I don't think it's just because it's the first time we see Batman. It's also, the movie starts with a truncated origin. It's over the opening credits. It's the funeral for his parents. It's the night of them being shot. And then it's him falling into like what would become like the Batcave discovery. And then it turns out that that's a dream that he's having, and he's getting lifted up by the bats, and then it's him reflecting. The next thing that happens is his response to the Battle of Metropolis, where he's coming in, and it's Superman battling against the other Kryptonians, and it's ground level 9/11. I don't know a different way to put it. It's like buildings are getting like blasted apart. There's mass death. There's like dust just getting kicked up, and like heavy imagery. And he's looking up, and here are these figures, here are these aliens here on this planet that are insanely powerful compared to the humans. As you pointed out, Alfred makes a point of saying, oh, we're branding people now, or we're doing this. So he's getting meaner and meaner because the world is scaring him. And I think that's it. We're used to Batman, cool, calm, collected, the world's greatest detective. Nothing really like rattles him. And for large portions of this movie, that's how he is outwardly. But inwardly, this guy's freaking out. We've seen him being traumatized as a kid, his parents dying in front of him. He can't make a dent into the crime world, really. Like, he's putting away a sex trafficker here, a sex trafficker there. That's never going to stop all crime. And meanwhile, there's these forces far beyond his control that could like maybe put the planet in danger. So I like that focus. So I feel like in terms of a character in this movie, he's got the main arc. His arc is, I'm going to take this guy down. And he has to find himself by the end of the film. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm fighting against an innocent guy. That's the three-dimensional journey of the film. Now, Superman wrestling with his place in the world, Superman's relationship with Lois, Superman being put through the paces with Lex Luthor, that's all here. And that's cool, and that's a lot of what I enjoy about the film. But I think you touched on it. I think Ben Affleck is tasked with having to do the most out of anything that's happening in this epic production.
Yeah, and that's the way I can enjoy this film, is looking at it as a Batman film featuring Wonder Woman and Superman. That intro of of Bruce Wayne's perspective of the Man of Steel fight between Zod and Superman, awesome.
Yeah.
What a way to open a film.
I got a little, in the end of Man of Steel, there's so much destruction. Like, how many people are dying here? And I like that that's called back here. Because in Man of Steel, you're seeing it from Superman's perspective, where you're kind of above it. You're in the middle of the fight. You're crashing through a building. You don't really get like the practical, how is that impacting the people on the ground? Because you're up in the sky. I like this version where you're not connected to the fight at all. You can just see it happening off in the distance. And here's just rubble. I love like the horse wandering through without the rider. I love the teacher leading the kids, trying to keep them calm. So it's not just the spectacle of it. Like, and I'll keep coming back to this again and again throughout it. The practical, real life, tactical details in there, I didn't have that in Man of Steel. At the end of the climax of the fight, here they are. And I thought that was a cool way to bring it back to it.
Totally. Because even at the end of Man of Steel, when he ends up with Perry, I don't know the other names of the Daily Planet. It's obviously not Jimmy. Is it Jenny?
Jenny, I think.
Yeah. when Superman catches up with them, there's like no one else around, which
Yeah.
felt a little awkward. So it's nice to see that that world and that destruction was a little bit more lived in, that they should hold the question over Superman's head of like, what are you really capable of? And I don't mind that exploration. I think, again, I'm open to different takes on different superheroes. Even with Batman killing, this is a compelling Batman.
And I'll say, okay, so I agree. So do I like it where superheroes don't kill? Sure. Great. Spider-Man, he's my number one. If there was all of a sudden a Spider-Man movie where he's going around punching people's heads off, bit of a tough sell. Like I'd like to see like what is the justification there necessarily. But in the rules of this world, I never question this. When he's up against, so it's not like Batman's going out of his way to kill people, but if you're firing on him and that's the fight we're having right now, he will go there. He's trying to stop that. But a few points. In the Michael Keaton Batman movie, he fucking kills people. He blows up the Ace Chemical factory. There's a whole bunch of goons in there. And then when he's fighting people on top of the church, the one goon's beating the hell out of him. He ends up throwing that guy off the bell tower. So I mean, like, it's played for kind of humor, or it's played for kind of what else, but like that's there. So I'm not going to investigate that too much. Also, I love Batman Begins. I love the Nolan films, but I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. It's like you're kind of killing him. So it's like I'm being 100% honest. That bugs me more than anything Batman does here, because to me that's a hypocritical moment. You're killing that guy. You're calling it. You're not killing that guy. Here, Batman's like, look, if you're a rapist, if you're a murderer, if you're whatever, I'm going to attack you with like a whole bunch of force because I'm trying. It's a little Punisher-ish. It fits this world.
I was just about to say, I had written that in my notes, that this is a very Punisher-esque Batman.
So a couple years ago, give or take, I had a superhero and supervillain themed costume party. Andreas, what was your costume?
I was the Punisher because it was cheap.
It was a good costume. Just I have to try this. It was a good costume. I didn't know cheap, expensive, whatever. You look good.
Yeah, but what were you?
Oh, okay. I ordered from overseas a Ming the Merciless costume from Flash Gordon. And Andreas, I'm not even joking. It arrived. I had to go to the post office to pick it up, and I unwrapped it and I hugged it. I held it to my chest. I was so happy. And I got all ready. And for the first hour of the party, people are like, oh, this is great. This is whatever. And then there's a knock on my door and I open it and my heart sank. A coworker of mine had the exact same costume. So there was two Ming the Mercilesses running around this party, and he was awesome. He didn't know. It's just one of those things, but I'm still mad about it to this day.
I will never forget your reaction.
I'm still upset. I'm upset right now talking about it. So a lot of great
I'm surprised I didn't dress up as Clark Kent with the Superman shirt exposed, because I have done that costume a lot.
The funny thing is, we had several Clark Kents with Superman shirts. No Superman.
Well, but that was also a time when like there wasn't a good Superman costume. I have the Man of Steel Superman costume because I was invited to another superhero party, and my wife went as Batgirl, my sister-in-law went as Wonder Woman, and my brother-in-law went as the Flash. So we were the DCEU.
I love it. That's great. Last thing, drunk Flash passed out in our shed. We found him the next morning. Just the body of the Flash in the shed. Just like, I hope he's still okay. He's still breathing. Good. That's
nice. That was a fun party. That was a good party.
Two Mings aside, one too many Mings. So.
How do you feel about Superman from Man of Steel killing Zod and potentially being responsible for thousands of people's deaths?
Well, it's interesting. It's a downer, which is like, duh, it's a downer. But like, for example, like Superman 2, there's the Donner cut, but we didn't grow up on the Donner cut. So a very important scene that's missing is you don't see the Kryptonians being arrested. It just looks like they die. So Superman tricks them, takes their powers away, crushes Zod's hand. The music kicks in. He picks them up and he throws them into the wall. Then he falls into an abyss. So it looks like Superman kills Zod in that moment, even though that wasn't the original intention behind the screenplay. Did you have a problem with that when you were a kid?
No.
I didn't have a problem with that at all, because he was such a bully and he was so evil. I didn't even think twice about it. So yeah, good. Get rid of that guy. So the point is, we've seen Superman do a version of this before, but there it's this big heroic moment. And Zod deserves it. Man, this guy's evil. This guy would have enslaved Earth. This guy was killing people. He doesn't care about us at all. You let it go. When he kills Zod in Man of Steel, it's a sick moment. It's not him it's him saving people. Zod's trying to laser blast him so he snaps
Yeah.
his neck. It's not like a Bond cool moment, and it's sad. It's a sad moment. It's a sad moment for Superman. So Superman 2 ends on this note of triumph. And I love it. And that's why it's one of my favorite scenes. This ends on this note of like melancholy. I did it. I had to do it. So I'm okay with it. But it's kind of like, where's he going to go next? Like, I don't want to see Superman flying around. Like, if he doesn't kill again after that, that's like a lesson. Oh, I'm so horrified by what I just did. I'll never do that again. Like, I think you could have done, so long story short, in a vacuum, it's fine, but I kind of wanted to see where they're going with that next. And the other one is, I was a big fan of the CW DC shows, Arrow, Flash, all that jazz. And the first season of Arrow, he's executing people. Like, that's it. And that becomes a big plot point in the second season where one of the cops he kind of has this antagonistic relationship with, but they end up becoming friends. The cops basically challenging him to like, if you want to like inspire people, you got to stop doing it. So it's him trying to like, I have to start being like nicer. I have to change my ways. So I think there's a way you can tell a story where they're using more brutal methods and just over a course of period of time. If I'm going to be a hero, I can't be doing this anymore. So it made me feel weird, but also violence is ugly. And if that's what Zack Snyder was trying to show by that, okay, I think he kind of pulled that off. Now it doesn't hold a candle to the emotion and my soaring highs of Superman 2, but also I watched that when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm more familiar with the comics. Like I'll reread a lot of them, and that's what I grew up on. So for me, that's the basis for Superman that I know. So I always compare the film versions to that. And yeah, within there, it's him figuring things out without having to take a life. So that's where I'm kind of coming from it. But again, it's a take. I think, like you said, he's still a young Superman. I mean, he basically just got his powers. He just realized his introduction to Kryptonian people, besides his father, is someone who wants to destroy Earth. It's an antagonist he has to take on.
A great Superman storyline is What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, where he's fighting the elite. And like that's like DC Comics addressing Superman in this era of more edgy Superman's planet. And it looks like he kills a lot of them at the end, and it looks like he's being brutal. And then it turns out it's all a trick. It's like, well, guys, I could do this if I wanted to, but I choose not to. I love that. And also, like, I love All-Star Superman. I'm all for that. I'm all for kinder, gentler. But again, to your point, that's not necessarily the story Zack Snyder wants to tell. So I'm trying to go along with him on that ride.
And what I wish he would have wrestled with more in this film, because Superman doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this movie. I wish he would have wrestled with that decision of killing Zod a bit more, maybe having a conversation, because all the conversations he has is about his place on Earth, what his purpose on Earth is, the hero he wants to be versus the world's perception of him, which I think is great to explore, but we should have felt his guilt about killing someone a bit more.
I wish that character, look, I'll be honest. I've seen this a few times now. I love it. I don't think it's without fault. And I agree. I think we agree this is a Batman movie. I think leaning into that a bit more would make this more on even terms with each other. So I agree that's what, spoiler alert for my Razzie Reeldemption. That's one of the notes. It's not that it's not there. Superman has plenty of time. And like, again, it's him brooding. What I like about Snyder is this Superman feels very alien versus the Christopher Reeve. And Christopher Reeve is like the best of all of us. He's so kind. He's so nice. He'll help out anybody. It's not that the Superman won't help people, but he's never smiling. He's never whatever. That's a choice. And again, to your point like earlier about like, this isn't the most family friendly thing in the world. It's not. I do think that's inspired. Here, it's a literal alien. And it's just like, this world's a little off-putting to me. And yes, I like helping people. And yes, I love Lois. Where do I fit in? Every choice I have, is that the right choice? And at one point, Lois is tricked into kind of going into this war zone where she will be endangered. And then Superman will, of course, go save her. And then they're able to kind of set up, they make it look like Superman caused all this collateral damage and killed folks on the ground, which he didn't do. The US government's like, you know, what is your function here? At the end, it kind of answers that question in that Doomsday's here. He's threatening the world. He's this monster. And the only thing that can stop the monster is like the souped up guy. And Superman chooses to literally die in combat, stopping this thing. This is my world. Lois, you're my world. So he makes the choice. What am I here to do? I'm here to save this planet. That's it. I think you could have articulated that more in some of the dialogue.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I can see what they're trying to do. That's the journey. And it's going to end with him literally giving his life to save the planet. I think there's maybe some ways you could incorporate that in a little bit more where you could hear it out loud, where Batman has Alfred as the sounding board the entire time. So you're getting his thoughts, like where he's at, like the entire time.
Superman sacrificing himself in the end didn't feel as epic as it should have been. And I don't mean visually. Visually, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I just meant the buildup and execution of it. That to me, it almost felt like, oh, this is a story beat on a page we need to hit.
Mhm.
I wanted to feel more around that.
I think Superman needs to end this film with "I am this to Earth," and he does. But the problem is that gets baked into the Doomsday plot. I think like maybe a version of this where it didn't end with him dying. It's just him making the choice of I'm here for the people of Earth. And then his big death, eventually there's gonna be a problem that only Superman can solve. That's where he comes in. I think the Doomsday part's a little tacked on. Now, I've got some thoughts around that. It is an epic sacrifice, but that's because it's part of this plot line while it's juggling these 6 other plot lines at the same time. Does that make sense? Maybe we shouldn't have gone here, and then that would have been given more room to breathe in a different story.
And I agree with that.
I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this Dark World. We've had Tim Burton Batman. We had Christopher Nolan Batman. Now with this, but it's not like we hadn't had a dark Batman. Batman Forever, Joel Schumacher, a little bit more candy colored, neon, that type of thing. Batman and Robin, very, very, very campy. But I think for the most part, our vision of Batman for the last 40 years has been dark versus light. I would say, so that's not that out of place compared to some of the other ones we've been getting. Spoiler alert, I think Affleck does a really good job here. I like him as Batman. I know he's got a lot of shit. I enjoy this version of it. There's little things. At one point, he's after something. Oh, what is he after? And it turns out Lex Luthor is trying to import kryptonite into Metropolis. Here's one thing that we've discovered that can hurt the Kryptonians. It decays their cells. So Batman wants to get his hands on it. So it's him chasing the shipment that's heavily guarded. And it's him in the Batmobile. They're firing on him with machine guns. They're firing on him with a rocket launcher. He's firing back at them. There's definitely damage to the other side on there. There's no line about him killing those guys. The car's like blasting through buildings. I think it's a great chase sequence, really muscular. And then right as he's kind of closing in to get what he's after, Superman just flies down. The car crashes into him. All this work. Batman put all this work, all this prep. He had this giant, exhausting fight sequence. And Superman's body just literally just standing there demolishes his car. And it just shows the dichotomy between the two of them. I think this movie is chock full of cool stuff like that. So again, going back to what we said earlier, part of this feels like there was a gun to their head. You have to give us Batman versus Superman. We demand that you have these fights. I like what they set up here. That's a really compelling sequence. And Superman, one of the plot lines is Clark Kent getting wind of this vigilante in Gotham who's pretty brutal, and the police are pretty ineffectual over there. I guess maybe this will lead off to a new topic. I love the Daily Planet investigative work in this film. That's not necessarily something I was expecting in this movie. Clark is chasing down leads and they keep trying to give him these puff pieces. They want him to investigate a football game. They want him to investigate a Lex Luthor social gathering. He wants to get to the bottom of who is this guy and why isn't Gotham better taken care of? And it's him arguing for that in the newsroom with Perry. Lois, after being in the war zone, she finds a bullet. And it's made of a metal that can't quite be identified. So it's her chasing it down, being sent out to the lab, talking to her government contacts. And they spend a lot of time with her unraveling, well, why was this type of metal being used in the middle of nowhere in this conflict the United States shouldn't have? So that level of thought, I wouldn't have necessarily went into Batman versus Superman, where it's just them kind of punching each other.
You articulated it better than I did. That's what I meant by when I said I love the Lois investigation aspect, because I did. I really enjoy the Daily Planet, how it felt like a newspaper.
So Lex Luthor has this event where he wants Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne to get together. He's trying to stoke this fight behind the scenes. We'll talk about Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor in a minute. He's working behind the scenes to get Superman suspicious about Batman, who's this brutal vigilante, and criminals that Batman's getting sent to prison, Luthor's having killed to make it look like that's Batman's fault as well by branding them and sending them in with the bat signal. Oh, that's an automatic death sentence. That's not the case. Luthor's making sure that happens. So Superman will blame him for these criminals getting killed. Meanwhile, with Batman, he's trying to stoke the fears of, you failed everybody. Your family died because of you. There's this alien over here that's way too dangerous. So they're at this party, and Bruce Wayne's trying to track down whatever Luthor is shipping into the city, which will be revealed to be the kryptonite. He has an earpiece in that's telling, Alfred's talking to him where to go. But Superman can hear the earpiece. So I love that bit of business where Clark Kent's kind of following him around. And meanwhile, you've got Diana Prince at this event too, and she ends up stealing his surveillance device. So I think Wonder Woman being kind of this wild card, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I think introducing the other Justice League characters, especially as late in the film as that scene is, that's where it's over the line of, you stop introducing people. It's too many people at this point.
I love Wonder Woman in this film. Love it. I, like you said, perfect wild card. Need that element where no one has any idea, including us, the audience. What's she doing here? What's going on? Then you get those scenes that just feel so shoehorned in, where Flash visits him. He has this random.
Oh my gosh! Oh, okay, please talk about that. Okay, so what is that?
It's like post-apocalyptic. Batman's leading this army, I guess, and he's expecting delivery of a package. The package arrives on a truck. When he gets in the truck, he's tricked, he's captured, and then Superman comes to visit him. And Superman just blows a bunch of people away with his heat vision. And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? No, tell me, Greg, what the fuck is going on here?
You'll have to watch a little movie called Justice League. I hear you. In addition to everything I listed, there is a flash forward to the future. And in that flash forward, the Flash shows up to Bruce Wayne in the present, trying to send him some kind of message. And then Bruce Wayne wakes up thinking it was all a dream. But we, the audience, can put together, oh, that's going to pay off in some other movie. And that's a five, I didn't time it, but that's a 5-minute sequence in this 3-hour behemoth of a film. One more thing to juggle. This future, okay, what is that?
It doesn't fit the aesthetic or the storyline that's going on right now. It just feels like it's put in there to, hey guys, get excited. There's going to be more movies that'll probably explain this. You could easily cut that out and nothing changes in the film.
I do think it feeds into Bruce's Superman paranoia.
Of course it does, but I don't think you need that. With the films showing us that, they're not just showing us a random dream sequence. To me, it's a vision of the future. That's how I took it. And in that future, Superman is so evil, he's killing people with heat vision.
Yep. It's one more hat on top of the hats that are now. No, I get that. All I'm saying is I feel like at least that hat is thematically on point with everything else that's happening, versus it's not a vision of the future and Brainiac's attacking. Yes, it's a tease for a future. Yes, it's a tease for kind of this world that Snyder's building out that's going to be expanded on more in Justice League and would have kept going, spoiler alert, had he kept making films. But we're never going to see what that looks like, or maybe we will, who knows. It's one more damn thing in a very busy movie to begin with.
Yeah, because then you have the moment where Bruce sends Diana, Wonder Woman, the files that he was able to discover from Lex's computer. And she basically watches a bunch of quick times introducing us to Cyborg, Aquaman, The Flash. And that just felt like shoehorned into.
I agree. That's my one big, and here's the thing. That's not even bad. I don't even, in a vacuum, I don't mind spoilers for those characters. Maybe that would have been a good DVD extra. Maybe that would have been a good short that ended up on YouTube that you see. One, there's so much happening. There's so much happening at all times. Like, here's some more characters that we're going to track. And two, that's right before Superman and Batman are going to fight.
Yeah.
Lex Luthor, they kidnap Superman's mom. And they're like, if you don't fight and kill Batman in the next, because basically, if you don't fight and kill Batman in the next hour, I'm going to light your mom on fire. I'm going to roast her with a flamethrower. So Superman, balls in your court. Then they slow the movie down to go to the scene that Andreas just described. So it's like, I don't want this scene right now. So that is really like the main blemish on here where I'm like, I wish you just took that out. Okay, so now that we brought this up, Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. I'd love to talk about him a little bit. This version, kind of a very obnoxious tech bro take on the character. I think he does a good job. I know he really rubs some people the wrong way, but especially having seen the original with Gene Hackman, that's such an interesting performance because Hackman is always funny. All of his scenes have a twinge of humor to him, and he's also stone cold lethal. Like, he's introduced killing like a cop who's on his tail. At one point in the original Superman, they steal kryptonite from a museum. You don't see it, but when they report on it, they make a note of saying 2 guards were killed. And then his plan is to set off these nukes and cause this like basically nuke a city, blow that one up, and then set off the San Andreas fault and like send a huge chunk of California into the sea, killing millions of people. So he will kill anybody. He doesn't care, but he's always kind of funny. It's not like I need that character to be dead serious. So Eisenberg here is like annoying. He's got this thing about personal space. He doesn't care. Like he forces a Jolly Rancher into somebody's mouth at one point. And like, it's a very mannered performance. Looking around in 2026 at some of the people that have a lot of money and access to resources, I did not think this performance was that far off.
Lex Luthor is a sort of paranoid, bratty tech bro makes sense to me. I thought he was great.
Okay, I'm so glad to hear, because a lot of people, they scoffed at him being in it, like he's a point of derision in there, and I'm like, I think he's doing a great job
I
here.
mean, to be fair, you know, I was surprised when he was announced, but this version, at least in the Ultimate Edition, I thought he was great. I haven't seen the theatrical cut, so maybe his performance is truncated, and maybe that's
Okay,
what
well,
everyone is reacting to.
So what I like about Lex is always referring to his dad. LexCorp was built by the father, but like the father just basically put my name on it to get like investors to like open up their wallets. He's constantly referring back to his father. He just wants like Superman to, he's putting this grand plan into effect. And there's these hearings about, is Superman good? Should he be doing this stuff? There was somebody that had their legs crushed during the Battle of Metropolis. And Lex reaches out and he gives them like this state-of-the-art wheelchair so they can appear at these hearings and say how much like he blames Superman in person. And Superman shows up, the wheelchair explodes. It was a setup, and it was once again to like associate death and destruction with like Superman. So it's right there. And towards the end of the movie, Lex is finally face to face with Superman. It's like, what is his problem? And you get the reveal that Lex's father was abusive and nobody came to save me. And there's this level of like, how dare this person be this figure of good? I'm going to expose you for being just as rotten as everything else here. It's comic booky. I think they do a good job of selling it because they laid the groundwork earlier of him constantly referring to his father. His father's always on his mind. And here is this figure. Nobody helped me out. Nobody saved me. And I'm going to prove to the world. So either Batman will kill Superman. Okay, no more Superman. Or Superman will kill Batman and people will then fear him and show him being this murderer. Either way, Superman's not a problem for Lex anymore.
Are we going to talk about the fight?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, it's a cool fight. But I will say there was the lead up to it was frustrating because in the amount of times that Superman threw Batman and tossed him around, he could have just said, "Hey, Luthor wants us to fight. He's got my mom. We need to save her."
I agree.
And Superman was essentially the instigator. He didn't need to throw Batman 4 times. He could have just said that super quick.
Sure. But okay, so Zack Snyder, well versed in the work of Frank Miller. This is a freaking great callback to Dark Knight Returns. The Batman versus Superman fight. It's happened in other places, but this is like the one everyone remembers. Batman of the future. He's got like this special souped up armor around. It's him with different tricks, him trying to hit Superman with different things, iterations of kryptonite. That's this here. Now, it's not set in the future, but look at the armor. Look at what he's hitting. So it's like clearly somebody who loves these comics and wanting to like take that. So one tip of the hat. Like, and of course you're going to go there in a Batman versus Superman, but it looks like $1 million. Like the armor looks great. They're fighting in the rain.
And I love the way Batman outsmarts Superman. Using the kryptonite powder, smoke bullets is cool. And then there's that moment when he swings Superman around, crashing him into columns. It's a great fight scene.
And it's what I'm saying is like he's got like a sonic device, he's got machine guns, and like that's not the obvious that stuff's like a Superman, but like it's the Trojan horse because he's got gas canisters filled with kryptonite, and he's got a kryptonite spear, which will be like the final, like I'll put it through him. So he shoots the gas can. But I think, to your point, why doesn't Superman just talk to him? I don't think Superman knows he's got the silver bullet, if you will. So he catches the gas canister, and it's like, well, what are you going to do with this? Then it sprays the kryptonite, and he's not expecting it. This is up for worst screenplay. I do like, what's that you're breathing in? That's fear. Like that's a great line. Okay, you've never felt that before. And then Batman starts kicking the shit out of him, and then they're down below, and Batman's punching him, and then the punch just does not do anything because Superman's over it. So then it's back to Superman throwing him around again. So Batman's like fighting to get the second canister up, and Superman's jumping at him because he's still weak. So love it. Great job with it. It is the Dark Knight Returns fight, but like reimagined for like, for this movie. I think they did a fantastic job. Batman continues to beat the crap out of him. Has like his mask is torn in half. You can see his face. And also the other thing is your parents, I'm sorry guys if I'm paraphrasing, but you'll get the gist of it. Your parents probably told you you were special. That's the lesson you got. My parents taught me a lesson by dying in the gutter. Love it. You're entitled. I'm not. Even though he's this rich guy, that you're entitled in a certain way. I am not entitled in a certain way. He's about to stab Superman, but Superman's main concern is not being killed here. It's his mom who's about to get flambéed by this other dude. So he says, you're killing Martha. And when he spits out Martha, which is the name of Batman's mom, Batman goes from being the total alpha male who's kicking the absolute hell out of Superman to the paranoia kicks back in. Why did you say that name? What's happening here? And again, I think Affleck's doing a great job in this movie because he goes from being like this tough guy, there he is, to all of a sudden there's the scared kid. What's happening here? How did you get that information on me? And Lois, because she's been doing a great job, and shout out a small moment, Lois knows that this fight's about to go down. So she runs back to the Daily Planet and she needs to get a helicopter. And Lawrence Fishburne, amazing. He's like, we don't have the money for a bicycle. I'm not going to give you a helicopter right now. And she's like, please, it's not for work. And he's like, okay, let's get this chopper up on the roof. Great Perry White moment. Yeah. I trust Lois Lane with my life. You can have this. And Lois comes in and she's like, that's his mom's name. Like stop what you're doing. And Batman's like disgusted with himself. What am I doing here? And he throws the spear. And a lot of people hate Martha. That was a big joke. And look, I admit it's a little clunky. Absolutely. But the emotion of everything and that scene, like, I think it's awesome. And I'll deal with the clunkiness. That's fine. I'm okay with it.
To me, I liken it to what you asked me about Clark's father in Man of Steel. It's something I'm willing to overlook because the emotion is there and it serves the story. I do wish he would have sort of stuttered the word mom a little bit to get to Martha. I think would have helped it.
I agree.
But it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers other people.
So now it's Lex's contingency plan if Batman failed was he's got Zod's body and he's got access to the Kryptonian ship. So he basically puts into a protocol that's going to spit out like a creature that he can set up against Superman. And so it's like Zod and some of Lex's DNA. That's this movie's version of Doomsday. Something's clearly happening at the ship. So they're like, you got to get over there, Superman, and figure out what's happening at the ship. And Batman's like, I promise you I'm going to save your mom. You go handle that. I'll handle this. So we just had this 10-minute epic fight scene. Then it's Batman going to where, Martha Kent's being held. And also, good character beat. Alfred was listening in on the fight. And while that was happening, he's been able to figure out where they are. So I like that that's the good, script. Yeah, again, this was up for best screenplay. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that, but so he's up to something.
That's so true. This shouldn't have been worse screenplay. Did it win or?
We'll get into what it won and what it didn't win.
Okay.
So who is holding her captive? Well, it's a whole bunch of goons and thugs being led by the KG Beast himself, Anatoly Knyazov. Now, would you know that? No, they never call him the KG Beast, but we, the comic book fans, know it's him. And he's not wearing his suit, but that's okay. Sometimes it comes off a little BDSM. I get why it's not here. Maybe you could have given him some tactical armor or something, but all right, I'm splitting hairs. We just had this epic 10-minute long Superman versus Batman fight scene. We had the car chase. I thought that was a great fight scene. Here's epic fight scene number 3. Batman storming the warehouse where these guys are. I showed it to a friend of mine and they compared it to that's what playing Arkham Asylum, the video game, feels like on the screen. And just him again, most of those guys are probably dead, but also most of them probably deserve it. So I thought that's now one of my minor nitpicks, minor, is Batman just survived this fight with Superman. And I imagine he'd be a little sore. And here he comes just right in like nothing ever happened. But the fight seems so awesome. Yeah, whatever. I'm willing to let that one go.
I think the adrenaline of that feeling of almost being able to save your mom or someone's mom named Martha could keep him going.
It's great. I love the choreography behind it. I love one son of a bitch stabs him in the shoulder. So Batman rips the knife off and stabs him in the shoulder. Like, oh, you're going to do that to me?
And I think it's that fight where someone's unloading a pistol in the back of his head and it just shows how bulletproof it is. It's an awesome scene. I feel like Superman is not given a good scene like any of those 3, which is why this is a Batman movie. And just to be clear, that doesn't bother me. This is a Batman movie. That's how I'm enjoying it.
Okay, Andreas, again, I agree with you because in what you're describing, it would be equal. Batman gets this warehouse fight. Superman gets the Doomsday fight, but that's not it. Batman gets this warehouse fight, then it's Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman get the Doomsday fight. So it's not one-to-one. Superman does the first part of it, but then it's a team effort. So I agree. The weight of the movie is just a little weighted a little bit more towards the Batman side of things than the Superman. I don't think Batman killing people is our favorite thing, but I do like there is KG Beast with his flamethrower that we've seen him use earlier in the film. And when I mean that, I mean that's not in the theatrical. They don't show all the hoopla of the village. They just refer to it later. So you've seen he's this super uber dangerous guy. And he's like, believe me, I'll kill her. And Batman's like, I believe you. Because he does. And I like him shooting the back of the flamethrower so it's going to go off. And then because his cape's flame retardant, he covers Martha with the guy blows up. Again, not our Batman necessarily, but like in the world of this film, awesome scene.
Awesome. This version of Batman is awesome.
Yep. They've thwarted Luthor's attempt to have them kill each other. They've rescued Martha. So Superman appears and Lex is like, okay, I guess we're just going to kill your mom. And he gets a call and it's Batman basically like, hey, I saved her. So Luthor's like, oh no, my plan's unraveling. So Superman's like, you lose. And Luthor's like, I don't know how to lose. And he goes, you'll learn. He's like, I can't let you win. And I love that thought process. Like I've just not been. So rather than take the L, Luthor lets like Doomsday out, and Doomsday's first instinct is to try and kill Lex. It goes to punch, like crush him, and Superman saves Lex because that's who Superman is.
That is a great Superman moment. I loved that.
Again, there's so much like, do we need a Doomsday fight at the end of this after all this? Like, I don't know. And like, again, if we have our final thoughts segment, Superman starts the fight. Like, Doomsday gets like the drop on him at first. You have this little monster movie thing where he's climbing up to the top of LexCorp, and you know he's engaging with like the military, and he's kind of got this Shin Godzilla thing where he's in constant like agony, and the more damage you do to him, the more he'll kind of morph. So at first he looks more like Parasite. He doesn't have like the bones sticking out of him.
Yeah.
And the more damage he takes, the bones start to come out, and then that's the Doomsday that we're familiar with. So Superman flies him up into space. Now they're fighting in space, and I like the conversation with like, you know, the military, like, what are we gonna do? Like, let's nuke them, and like somebody trying to like, what, we're gonna kill Superman? Like, look, I guess, you know, we have to stop these guys. So they shoot the nuke up. Doomsday comes crashing back down to Earth. Superman, I love, is like out of it in space, but thanks to the power of the sun, he gets that's another shot I love where the sun gives him his strength back.
Another great Superman moment. And I do like that build up to the military having to launch the nuke, because in their head, there's still that question of, is Superman as dangerous? You know, like, could he potentially turn on us? It's to get rid of one immediate threat. The question mark threat is maybe worth taking out.
So Doomsday comes back. Batman engages with him, trying to get him back to that kryptonite spear. Wonder Woman shows up. Love it. Because the whole film's like, who is this Diana Prince person? Bruce Wayne figures out that she's like really old, but like, what's her deal? Like, why does she look like...
It's one of the best character intros with that guitar theme song. I got goosebumps when that kicked in. She showed up. She's so badass. I love this version of Wonder Woman. Sorry, go ahead.
Gal Gadot's getting some heat in 2026.
We don't need to get into that. I do think the first Wonder Woman film is phenomenal.
My point is, I feel like that gets lost in the shuffle. I feel like there's some revisionist history going on. I think she's great, and I think she fits this Wonder Woman. Again, a slightly alien perspective. Her version of it is not the same as Superman's, is not the same as Bruce. So it's like they have three distinct feels as three distinct heroes, and here they are teaming up at the end. Cool, great, world's at stake, yada yada yada. Superman's willing to take the kryptonite spear and stab Doomsday, so he's by the radiation that'll kill him, and then Doomsday stabs him. They kill each other. And then the end of the film is Batman is changed by this whole experience and doesn't brand Lex Luthor. And here he is trying to build a team together, and him depending, like, people are flawed as hell, but we're going to have to come together because we really don't have much of a choice. And that's it. And I love that there's your, so Superman's journey to kind of accepting who he is. It's there. I don't feel like it's wrapped up in this giant bow. The Batman journey, I feel like is. And that's part of why I'm such a fan of this. I think Affleck does a good job selling that at the end of this.
I also like within that fight, there's a great shot from behind Batman where it's a wide shot of his perspective, seeing Wonder Woman and Superman fighting Doomsday. It's almost a little bit of like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Also, I like Doomsday has him dead to rights, because sometimes Batman's a character, and Spider-Man and Marvel, with plot armor. Like, what are they going to do up against like Thanos or something? So here he is up against like this Kryptonian monster. The thing's about to like laser blast him into pieces, and that's when Wonder Woman shows up to save him. I think that's great. So she gets her big hero moment. And then like the lance pays off, but like even Alfred says something snide where basically like, if we hadn't spent so much time fighting Superman, maybe we'd be a little bit better prepared for what's happening right now. But okay, so the biggest difference is between the Ultimate Edition and theatrical cut is the investigation work. Like the Lois Lane stuff and the Clark Kent investigating what Batman's doing, that's way cut down. Also, the Lex Luthor master plan, you don't get that woman with the false testimony. You don't get her getting killed. So it's a lot of like brass tacks there's some kind of plan, but the plan's never
Oh,
really
wow.
fleshed out. I would say it's all there. Like everything we're talking about is present in the theatrical, but nothing is given room to breathe. And I feel like the conflict, okay, they're just going to fight. But there it's like Clark's naturally suspicious of Bruce. He doesn't like what's happening in Gotham. The little moments of him talking to the Gotham City, that's not there. One, I just think it's great little world building business. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I know a little bit more about Gotham City. One detail that's lost between the theatrical and the Ultimate Edition is you had touched on earlier in the episode when Batman's first introduced and he's saving the women that are being put into the sex trafficking. The way that scene starts is it's two police officers in their car watching a football game where Metropolis is stomping on Gotham City. They're totally blowing them out of the water. And they're not responding to the call immediately. And it's like, so it's telling you a few things. It's telling you the wealth disparity between Metropolis and Gotham that's being, you can see that visually with the football game. It's showing you the apathy of the Gotham City police rushing in. That's cut out and you just see the police car pulling up. So you lose all that character and like the buildup. Another piece of that scene that's in both versions, I just want to call it out, is even the women being rescued don't want to be pulled out of their jail cell until Batman's gone. Because they can still, so he look like they think he's like this demonic creature upstairs. That's great.
That's such a cool moment where the cop opens the gate and one of the women immediately closes it and then says, he's still here, or the demon's still here. I don't know the exact line of dialogue, but again, a great character moment for Batman.
The drone at the beginning, that's not there. It goes to literally like all the stuff with the US military, the forces on horseback coming in. That's not there. The structure of the film is still in place. I think the pacing's a little off in the theatrical. I'm sorry to jump around. So in the war-torn area, you get the gist of that scene. But there's one thing of getting the gist of it, and there's the other of seeing the KG Beast and his forces massacring the people, dragging their bodies into the square. That's where you first see the flamethrowing the bodies versus just cutting away and them saying, hey, there were some bodies that were dead. You see them shoot them, but then they don't get into like the women crying. They don't get into Superman destroying that drone that's coming because they're gonna like bomb the town. So there's just way more texture. And
that really takes away from the conspiracy against Superman.
Yep. And then like they have a woman that they're having falsify testimony. You lose that.
Yeah, that adds a lot too.
And then KG Beast kills her. So it makes KG Beast look more formidable and you want to see like Batman get rid of him. We'll talk more about Lois in a little bit, but like I like her detective work. And like her trying to chase down what's this bullet made of? Jenna Malone, it's like a lab tech, and she gives a little, like even the smallest character beat in here, they've got like personalities. Like she seems like amused by this. There's a warmth to her. I will say, by the time the fight rolls around in the end, I think the last hour, that's probably where the least amount of changes are made.
Okay.
Anything you want to call out before we head into categories?
There's a moment when Bruce Wayne goes to visit the mausoleum where his parents are buried. And as he opens the door, we hear the sound design of the terraforming machine from Man of Steel. It happens quickly, and then it's revealed that it's a nightmare. And I thought that was really cool because that same sound design element is introduced to carry us into the other nightmare he has. Of the vision, the vision of the future.
That's really good. I didn't notice that.
I thought that was really cool.
Also, I mean, like the soundtrack. I think it's got a banging soundtrack. I think they do great. The Wonder Woman theme that you called out before, Superman's theme from Man of Steel. I loved it there. Love it here. But Batman's the scream. I don't even know what you call that coming in. First, you hear the scream when he's saving the women who are being sex trafficked, but then it's kind of played to be creepy because he's like up on like the ceiling and he's like this monstrous figure. But then at the end where he's saving, Martha Kent, then it's back. And now you want that monster to kick in and kick these guys' asses. One, just a cool track. But two, I love how it's like deployed in that moment. We keep going back to there's so much going on here. But one thing that we have not even brought up once here is as Harley Quinn is to the Joker, Mercy Graves is to Lex Luthor. She was introduced in Superman, the animated series. She's popped up in different media over the years. And she's here. So she's Lex Luthor's sidekick. And she's not as like flashy as Harley Quinn, but like again, I love the representation. I like how she's used here. She's with Lex on his schemes. They're exchanging glances with each other. It seems like she's the only other person that knows kind of the full scope of what he's up to. And Andreas, what happens to her?
She gets blown up along with everyone else in that Capitol building.
Lex uses her as part of the plan. He sends her into the room as his representative, and then he'll have plausible deniability later. What I like about it is one, she's there. You get the broad strokes of that character. Here's the scheming Luthor assistant. Here he is betraying her to get what he wants. And no one but the audience is ever going to put that together. No character is around them. He doesn't get a speech about it. He never has to react to it. But if you're familiar with the comics and you know their relationship, that all plays out as it should.
Yeah, I do wish she was given a little bit more to do. Her death serves a purpose,
Yeah.
but
I guess, look, there's Harley Quinn has Die Hard's super popular character. I honestly don't know if Mercy Graves has that hardcore fan base. And yes, if you were going in like, oh my gosh, there's the representation, they aren't given a ton to do. But again, in a busy movie, I'm glad they're here. And I guess just the last thing I'll say before heading over to categories is I think what sticks out to me is like you use the word capital E, epic. This is an epic film. We've seen how many comic book films at this point. And look, I love them. I love the big ones. I love the small ones. We could talk about The Shadow. We can talk about The Rocketeer. We could talk about, Dick Tracy. We could talk about Thor 2. We could talk about The Incredible Hulk. I could say something nice about all of them, seriously. But not all of them are epic. And to me, this feels like, and I don't want to sound sacrilegious, but I mean this. This to me is like an Alex Ross graphic novel. And not everything always feels like that. There's something special about this. And even if not if everything lands, we're about to get into categories, we talk about more stuff and go through it. The level of ambition on display here, one man's ambition is another man's pretension. But I think Zack Snyder had a vision and he's executing that vision. I'm going to have some trouble in some of these categories because there's so much stuff that I enjoyed. I'm having trouble. Like, well, I don't even know what to pick right here. I'm so glad we're able to talk about this today because I think there's more nooks and crannies in this film than people might be expecting from, oh, it's Batman versus Superman.
I think that's really well said. It's almost like an Elseworlds comic.
I'm giving two giant yes, 100%. 100%. What's an Elseworlds?
Elseworlds were comics that DC put out that allowed writers and artists to explore various versions of their most well-known characters. They were given complete freedom. It's DC's What If. And some of the more popular ones were Batman Gotham by Gaslight, where Batman was in the 19th century chasing Jack the Ripper in Victorian Gotham. The most famous Superman stories of Elseworlds were Superman Red Sun, where his ship crashes in Soviet Russia instead of the US. And to bring it back to what you said, Alex Ross's Kingdom Come, which follows aging versions of the Justice League confronting new heroes and new violence. I used to own one where it was, what if Superman had crashed into feudal Europe in the 1500s as opposed to Kansas? Lex Luthor is a mad king at that time. I used to own that one that I thought was really cool, really dark too, but I liked it. So I think this is an exploration of versions of these characters that you can enjoy and have fun with.
I had Elseworlds in my notes. I could not agree more. One of my favorites, it's not like a prestige title, just I enjoy it. There's one where what if Harvey Dent got the face full of acid instead of just the half, and then he turned into Batman, and he's like a meaner version of Batman running around with his scarred face. And then like Bruce Wayne is his friend who's trying to like talk him off like the ledge. Really enjoyed that one. So
that's awesome.
All right, so here is our Razzie Reeldemption. That's at the start of the like. What would we change about this? And I'm not even being snarky. The theatrical has pacing issues and feels rushed. So the solution is watch the Ultimate Edition. I think that fixes the problem. And I guess my hot take is I agree this movie is overcrowded. There's too much stuff happening for one film. But I've seen it multiple times now. It's such a buffet of DC imagery. I also wouldn't change a frame of it at this point. Because now I'm used to this. So I acknowledge there's maybe a better, smoother journey with some of these plot points through a different film. Absolutely. But the sheer scope of this and aiming, shoot for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars. I feel like just it's so crazy and shoving everything in. I kind of enjoy it.
I love it. My would be, like I mentioned before, I'd like a version where Superman just struggles with him killing Zod for Man of Steel just a little bit more. And then I honestly would like to see a version where we lose that whole future vision nightmare sequence, Flash visiting him, and then Diana looking at all the files. I feel like it would be a much more streamlined film. But
I think if you put a gun to my head and you're like, Greg, you have to remove a scene, it's Diana looking at the files.
Yeah.
All right, heart of the film.
If you're all good, you can't be all powerful. If you're all powerful, you can't be all good. Unless you're Superman.
Ooh. Sometimes the greatest superpower of all is communication.
That's true. That's
If
that's
Batman and Superman had just talked to each other as opposed to being so scared of one another or suspicious, then maybe some of this would not have happened.
yeah.
Favorite scene?
This is tough,
This
Greg.
is tough. This is tough.
Yeah, there are so many good scenes, but ultimately the one I keep coming back to, and I'll call out a few more after you give yours, but for me, Batman rescuing Martha. It's such an epic and great Batman scene. And like your friend said, it does feel like you're watching a version of playing Arkham Asylum.
Okay. The Batman versus Superman throw. Look, any of these fight movies, let's take a step back. Any of these fight movies, the fight's got to deliver. It's got to deliver. Freddy versus Jason, I think that's a pretty good fight. You've been waiting for years. Okay, they hit it. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, not a great fight. Now, look, it's Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, not Frankenstein fights the Wolfman. Okay, I get it, but like, so they're there. You really want him to like, nah, it's fine. Zatoichi versus the one-armed swordsman. Now, these were two very popular action icons. Spoiler, zip ahead 1 minute if you don't want a spoiler. Zatoichi fucking kills the one-armed swordsman. Like, he's dead after that. Amazing. So I have Godzilla versus Kong. We've all seen it. We all have versions. The fight scene here totally delivers. Not just delivers, is a callback to one of the most memorable moments in all of comics. It's awesome. Looks like $1,000,000. With that said, Batman saving Martha Kent. It's so good.
Yeah.
I can't. Look, part of it is I don't want to see Superman hurt. I love Superman. So Batman beating up Superman, even though it's a great fight scene, I'm still like, no, I don't want to see him get hurt. That's too bad. Versus Batman saving Martha, I want Batman to, take those guys out. And it's this giant heroic moment, maybe the most heroic moment of the film. Superman killing Doomsday's heroic, but then Superman dies. So it's also sad. Batman saving Martha is just straight up like hero stuff.
Yeah, well, we're on the same page there. And I did want to call it, I absolutely love, we talked about this one as well. I just love seeing the scenes from Man of Steel through Bruce Wayne's perspective, the destruction. And there's that shot of him looking up at his building and seeing the heat vision piercing out, destroying the building, and then him running towards the smoke where everyone else is running away from it. That is such an epic moment and tells you so much about his character. And I know we talked about it. The destruction was a big complaint people had about Man of Steel. So I do like that they're directly addressing that complaint through another character's eyes. And essentially it sets the tone for the rest of the film.
I love the car chase. I love Lex's showdown with Superman, where Superman comes in so strong, and then Lex turns, because Lex is so smart, he's able to turn and like accusing his mom of being a witch, like that, the language around there. You're put like Metropolis like being destroyed, but even like the truncated Batman's origin story, the dream. Again, Zack Snyder, man, he's good with the slow mo. The very emotional like slow mo there. Little detail I love is Batman and his parents were going to see Zorro, because that's the classic, that's the story. But what's on the marquee? What's coming 1 week later? Excalibur, the John Borman film. 1, Excalibur rocks. But 2, that's also his thesis. A flawed team saving the world. It's right there. Have you seen Excalibur?
I haven't.
Oh, you got to see it. There's a direct callback during the climax. There's 100% a direct, this happened in Excalibur, I'm going to use this here. And it's the idea of these people who are like, these are the knights were the heroes, and they all have their personal problems. But when the world's on the line, we're going to have to figure something out. And that's where the end of the movie is. And I love putting that boom on the marquee. Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen from Walking Dead. I just love them playing Batman's parents because they play very different characters on The Walking Dead. That's great. Oh, it's just a ton. And not just great. Little nooks and crannies. So sorry to rant, but like at one point when Superman is trying to chase down the whole Batman angle in Gotham City, he's interviewing people in this apartment complex, and there's this mother and the son, and the mother's basically like, he's warned to get out of Gotham after dark, and the mother's like, well, if you're not bad, you have nothing to worry, because they trust Batman. Like Batman helps the people out. Later in the film, after the explosion with Superman during the congressional hearings, you see that same mother and son, and like they're burning in effigy like Superman, and the son looks back at the mother, and the mother just shakes her head like, no, like don't. So it's like this kid clearly loves superheroes, and the mom's like, don't believe that. And like that little detail in there, just I'm sorry. There's a ton of like good little moments, just like blink and they're missing moments that I really enjoy in here. It's not going to be favorite shot, but just I'm thankful they're here. Okay, that's it.
3 quick scenes I want to shout out that I absolutely love too. The Lois and Clark scene in the bathroom is great.
Oh,
It's just
yes, please talk about that.
It's just such a good moment between two people who are in love. And in a movie this dark, it was nice to see that. There's another super short scene where Superman visits his mom and he's telling her about how he can't be the hero that Earth needs. I loved that scene. And then one more I just want to shout out to, we had already talked about it, where Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne meet at the library fundraiser. I loved their dialogue with each other.
Yep. Oh, I'm so glad you called it that, Lois and Clark, because they have a real passionate relationship. But if that feels and also in a 3-hour movie, that doesn't get lost in the shuffle. And everything they do is for each other. He's Superman. He's practically saving her from disasters and stuff, but she is working behind the scenes to clear his name of this stuff. And then at the end, there she is, like,
yeah, she's taking a bath. She had just survived an attack, in the desert. She's back home in her comfort zone, taking a bath. And Superman, at the end of the scene, I love that he just gets in the bath fully clothed to be with her.
That's cut down a little bit too, like her hands on his back. It goes from him crawling in to his glasses on the floor and the water splashing. That's where it cuts in the theatrical. And Ultimate Edition, you get a little bit more passion. Not a deal breaker, but again, this world building stuff, you get more of the world building in an Ultimate Edition.
I mean, it just goes to show you can cut frames out of a film and it totally changes the film.
Yep. Yeah, and I'd say here it makes a big difference. Okay, favorite shot.
This might be the toughest category. I mean, Zack Snyder is a master at visuals. There's no other way to describe him. He's so good at this. I had such a massive list, but I'm going to go to one moment. It's one shot. You already talked about it. It's during the Batman-Superman fight. Batman is punching Superman, and because Superman doesn't have his strength, he's feeling the impacts, and his face is just getting punched side to side. But within that shot, he gets his strength back, and he becomes more stoic, and he turns and looks at Batman, and the punches aren't landing at all. And I just love that moment. It's such a cool moment and such a great shot.
Nope, I agree. So many shots. Again, even if you hated the screenplay, which I certainly do not, it's a gorgeous looking film. When they discover the kryptonite that's crashed in the ocean, the ocean looks amazing. The green of the kryptonite, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Like, I want to jump in that ocean right now.
A lot of shots in the fight. A lot of the rainfall, there's Batman, you get to go from there. Also, like the last 10 minutes of the film where they're mourning Superman, there's 2 different funerals, one for Superman, one for Clark Kent. That's great. I love that.
Gorgeous.
Clark had an engagement ring sent to Smallville to give to Lois, and Martha gives that to her. And there she is in Clark's childhood room. And I love, there's a mobile from in space hanging above him. And here's this alien little kid that was living in this room. The meals on the table, like there's people, a communal grief that's coming across, and the joy at the same time, just very lived in. But at the cemetery, there's Lois now wearing the ring with a clump of dirt that she's going to like drop onto the grave. And that's a great shot. But my number one is there's a series of talking heads trying to figure out like what is Superman up to, is he banned for the planet, and each one of those is gorgeous. Him pulling a ship, him saving some astronauts, the shot of him like saving people on the roof. Superman makes a save during the Day of the Dead, and all the people in their Day of the Dead like makeup and costumes reaching up and touching him like a god, and the look on his face again is not like smiling or whatever, but he's uncomfortable with it. But I get it. You're being kind of worshipped in a way by these folks, and how to identify with them. If Batman gets favorite scene all to himself, I will give favorite shot all to himself to Superman in that Day of the Dead sequence.
What a gorgeous shot. It's a beautiful shot. Yeah, that was my runner-up. That was almost my pick. Another shot I'll just leave it at that because we could just go on for hours.
Okay, MVP.
Ben Affleck is Bruce Wayne in Batman. 100%. The amount of shit that came down when his casting was announced, it was a lot. He is so good. He has such a great intensity to both Batman and Bruce Wayne that totally works.
Henry Cavill, I think, is doing really strong work in here. I'm a fan of his. But as we said before, this is Batman's movie. So Ben Affleck, MVP. What I love about it is Batman's wrong. So it's his movie, but it's him learning his lesson by the end of it and coming out changed. and that's going to totally roll into Justice League. So again, like Snyder had a vision. Another little moment, Batman wakes up from a one night stand and he's got his drugs, whatever he's on, and he washes it down with like some wine. I like, again, nitty gritty character building stuff. So I like he still is millionaire playboy Bruce Wayne, but you don't even see her face. Like it's just this totally nameless, it's just an act. It's just something to do, like animalistic. His training sequence, that's really good. His reaction to like Wally being crushed, like the guard, the beginning of the film during the Battle of Metropolis, I think really strong work. He was totally derided, especially coming off Daredevil, which we didn't even talk about, like previously playing a superhero. And I think he 100% redeems himself for any crimes that Daredevil may or may not have committed. I think he's fantastic here.
Agreed.
Underrated element.
Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Like I said, I love the Wonder Woman movie. Her scenes here are amazing. Again, the intro of her theme is so dope. There's also a great moment in the battle with Doomsday where she gets hit and is just tumbling from the impact, sliding, breaking up a bunch of concrete. And when she finally comes to a stop, she looks up and she has a smile on her face. Like, okay, this is a formidable opponent. I mean, talk about a great character intro.
I agree. This is honestly one of the harder ones because I think there's a lot that can get lost in this. So the soundtrack, Jeremy Irons is Alfred, Holly Hunter's Senator, which we didn't even talk about. Again, like that could have been a nothing role, but she brings a power to it. She's kind of like Luthor's foil for the first part of the film because Superman doesn't know that this guy's coming after him. Scoop McNairy's Wally, Diane Lane and Kevin Costner is Ma and Pa Kent. Kevin Costner's back for a little like dream sequence or vision that Clark has when he's kind of like wrestling with where his place in the world. And I like that story he tells about doing good on his farm as a kid ended up causing harm for a neighbor's farm. And you just don't know where good is going to end up in the end. I thought that was a lovely way to articulate the problem that Superman was facing.
Oh, it's such a great parable. Yeah, I loved that too.
Callan Mulvey as KG Beast. Like, I think he's got this dirtbag charisma, like, with him the whole time. And, like, he's got a great look. Lawrence Fishburne is Perry White. Good Perry White movie in there. Jenna Malone, the lab tech. This is a quality Lois Lane movie. I think that gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
You know, the poster behind me is Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. I think, honestly, put Lois Lane on. I know she's not a superhero, but she's doing a ton of heavy lifting in here. I think the secret, and one of the things that makes it work, so I guess my winner out of all that, is the real world attention to detail. You see Jon Stewart on TV. You'd see Nancy Grace. You see Charlie Rose. You see Neil deGrasse Tyson. The constant news reports back and forth. I think they do a good job of making, like, you see CNN. This feels like a lived-in world that is reacting to these superheroes doing things. And again, you're in a 3-hour epic. I feel like that grounds it and makes it feel like, again, that prestige graphic novel where you're reading 12 issues worth of stuff, like all in one, like collected bound edition. That to me is the cherry on top. It's not actors cast as news people. It is the real people themselves reacting to this world. And I feel like it helps sell this vision. Who is having the most fun?
I think Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor.
So good. So good.
Yeah. I almost picked Jeremy Irons because he's fantastic casting, like you mentioned. But I think Jesse was having more fun.
I'm with you.
Nice.
What scene would you show someone to hook them?
It's the Batmobile truck chase that ends with Batman finally meeting Superman. It's an engaging action scene. There's some CG shots where the weightlessness of the Batmobile takes you out of it, but I love the chase. I love the shot of Superman in the headlights and Batman's surprised face where he then steps on the gas to hit Superman, but just bounces off of him. And I'd end it there before they talk to each other as a good tease.
I'm with you.
Wow.
Because I think the film ends with 3 banger action sequences on top of each other, but I think that one kind of gets lost. You got to give the audience something.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one. And also just to see the Batmobile in action in this world. All right, before we get to t-shirt quote, we have to talk about the Razzies. Worst director, Zack Snyder. Insanity. That's great.
He won or was nominated?
Not nominated.
Okay.
Nominated. Okay. That's insane to me. If you hated every word, if you thought the acting was every frame of painting looks fantastic, shot the hell, like, so nonsense.
I agree with you. He should not have been nominated for worst director.
Worst actor, Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill.
Get out of here. Nope.
Go to hell. No way. Nope. Worst screenplay, one for worst screenplay.
Really? What were the other nominees?
It won over Dirty Grandpa, Gods of Egypt, Independence Day Resurgence, Suicide Squad, and Hillary's America, The Secret History of the Democratic Party.
Oh my gosh. I have not seen any of those films. Actually, I think I saw Independence Resurgence on a plane and I don't remember it. But I would not nominate this for worst screenplay. And it won? It actually won?
It won.
Wow.
I
Okay.
I bet you $100 it clears all of those easily. I am morbidly curious in Gods of Egypt. That's all. I'm
I
not saying it's good. I'm not saying it's better than this. But out of that group, that is the only one I have any interest in seeing.
I haven't seen that.
Okay, worst screen combo win Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill. And they won over any two Egyptian gods or mortals in Gods of Egypt, Johnny Depp and his vomitously vibrant costume in Alice Through the Looking Glass, the entire cast in Collateral Beauty, Tyler Perry in the same old worn out wig in Boo! A Medea Halloween, and Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in Zoolander 2.
That's just being mean.
Also, like, okay, taking a step back, would I want a Superman Batman world's finest film where they're helping each other and Batman's the world's greatest detective and Superman's the muscle and they learn something about it? Sure, that's not this movie. So I think holding the darkness of this movie against it is not fair. So I think they're fine in their scenes together.
I agree.
Okay, worst supporting actor, winner, Jesse Eisenberg.
Really? I mean, again, was he cut down in the theatrical cut?
Not okay. His scenes are choppier. That's what I'd say. So, for example, when you first meet him, he's in LexCorp. I love him playing basketball. That seems like a very like tech bro douchebag thing. So he meets with Holly Hunter and some of the other politicians, talks about trying to get kryptonite in as a weapon to be used against Superman. And then he sits down with one of the politicians and goes over like wanting access to the Kryptonian ship and like some other stuff. That's all one scene in the Ultimate Edition. In the theatrical, that's oddly cut in two. It's him talking to Holly Hunter and the politicians. They cut away to like two other things. Then they come back to him putting the Jolly Rancher in that guy's mouth. So it's like, it's still there. The gist of it's still there. I guess it's just a way to kind of space him out over the movie. I don't think it plays as well, though.
Got it.
The main part of the performance is, I just think people didn't like how jumpy it was. But again, go back to Hackman and the other one. He's a clown, but he's a lethal. Like, and I think Hackman's doing a good job, but it's not like Lex Luthor has this long-standing cinematic tradition of being like prim and proper and all this stuff. So it's like, yeah, totally do your own thing.
Yeah, I wonder if, you know, if we didn't have the James Gunn version, if this version of Lex Luthor were to come out today, I feel like people would respond to it better.
Yes,
because again, a bratty tech bro, to me it makes sense.
Okay. So he beat Nicolas Cage and Snowden, Johnny Depp and Alice Through the Looking Glass, Will Ferrell in Zoolander 2, Jared Leto in Suicide Squad as the Joker, and Owen Wilson in Zoolander 2.
Okay.
I can't speak to those. I will say though, like, I think Jared Leto's like flashy, so I get why he's nominated, but having seen Suicide Squad, I don't think he's in the movie long enough to like win that. He's there, but it's not like you see so much of the performance I would put him up for like worst supporting, but I don't know. Okay. And then worst prequel, remake, ripoff, or sequel, winner, Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. And this defeated Alice Through the Looking Glass, 50 Shades of Black, Independence Day Resurgence, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, and Zoolander 2. Now you might be asking, man, Batman vs. Superman sure is mentioned a lot. So that and Zoolander 2 had the most nominations with 8, but winning Worst Picture and Worst Director was Hillary's America, The Secret History of the Democratic Party, and Dinesh D'Souza, who was the director.
You know, I think people just have it out for Zack Snyder for some reason.
You know, maybe we could pick this conversation up in another episode, but I don't disagree. Okay, so heading over to T-shirt quote.
Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
The reason why I wanted to do the race before this is I think this has got a lot of good lines. I don't think this is a worst screenplay. Again, I think just people had it out for Snyder, had it out for a big superhero movie, I think there's a lot of good lines. So Perry White's The American Conscience died with Robert, Martin, and John.
It's a good line.
Crime wave in Gotham. Other breaking news. Water wet. But it's not spoken aloud after Superman's dead. You see the funerals. You see it on the ground. If you seek his monument, look around you. Around the Superman sign. I think it'd be good on a shirt.
That's great.
All right. Are there any Oscars you would give this?
Best casting.
Oh!
I don't think anyone here is miscast.
That's really good.
Yeah. And IMDb lists Christy Carlson and Laura Kennedy for casting. So hats off to them.
I would give them the apology Oscar because they owe them an apology for sleeping on this movie, which I think is quality. All right. We like to wrap up with a crew shout out. I'm going to go with Ron Ayers, who's the boom operator B unit. He also worked on Jumper, Alex Cross, and Bones and All.
Nice. I am going to shout out the key second assistant director, Misha Bukowski. Other credits include Star Trek Beyond, Army of the Dead, and The Smashing Machine.
Oh, Oh, nice.
I did also want to call out. So in my research, I discovered that Patrick Leahy played Senator Purrington, who's on the panel with Holly Hunter. Leahy is a huge Batman fan and a real life senator. He's appeared in Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and in The Dark Knight. He was the person at Bruce Wayne's party that the Joker holds the knife to after he says, "You remind me of my father."
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so
That's great.
I discovered that in researching this, and I thought that was really cool.
I'm glad you were, because it's so weird about Superman. I was just like, I hope Andres doesn't hate this. But
No, again, I look at it once the Elseworlds thing came to me just now in the episode, and I was like, you know what? Looking at it this way, I actually enjoy the movie more. Like, this is a version of the film.
The other thing, if you don't like this version of Batman and Superman, it's too dark, they wouldn't act this, whatever. Guess what? You win. They're gone. Like, they've totally retconned this reality. So we already have a new Superman. We already have the Batman and the Batman sequel coming out. Like, these characters are going to be just fine. So to your point about being an Elseworlds, I like this being this weird little branch, and Justice League is going to extend that branch out just a little bit further. And now we're on to the next. We can be dark for a bit. Now we're in a totally different area. I can't even believe it's 10 years later.
Yeah. I liked it. I think talking about it more just now in this episode made me like it a lot more.
The first time I saw it, I went in like, well, I'm not going to like this. And then I was like shocked. And then, look, they're trying to cram so much in. There's so much stuff. Like, try and do 2 less things, and maybe it wouldn't have been so. But that's what makes it an interesting conversation.
And there's just so much to like in it that even if you have issues with parts of it, as a whole, I think it's totally enjoyable.
This did get me thinking about just like darker superhero representation in films. And where my mind drifted to was J.M. DeMatteis's Kraven's Last Hunt, the Spider-Man storyline. I read that when I was a kid, and that's a dark psychological horror, plot line. And it ends with Kraven blowing his head off, and it's not quite seen on screen.
Spoiler alert.
We have to bleep that part. It's not just edgelord stuff. I hate even kind of using that term, but it's dark. It's super dark. And it's also a great Spider-Man story. They're using this tale of how a villain perceives Spider-Man and what that means to him to try and explore what the character means. Kraven's plan is, while Spider-Man's incapacitated, to kind of take his place, and he's really good at beating up criminals. Well, that's not what Spider-Man is. There's also the compassion. There's also the help or whatever. And it's that dichotomy, you get to know Spider-Man a little bit better, and also one of his villains never really got to know him at all. I think that'd be an awesome movie. I also, as a parent, that's not something I'd ever take a kid to. So it's one of those things where it's like, that's a great fodder for storyline material. And there's all these other stories from the 80s, Death in the Family with like Batman. Again, some of the Alan Moore and other Frank Miller stuff that we've called out before. Would you want to see that in a movie if it's done well, it's R-rated, it's for the appropriate audience? Does the fact that it's going to alienate that kid crowd automatically mean those should not be pursued? And I don't have a good answer for that because I can see both sides.
That's a really good point. And yeah, of course, there's going to be other stories that I really like that are more adult oriented in the comics. And I'd love to see them as films. But you're right. If we're looking at it that it needs to appeal to kids, it's tough to say. It's tough to answer that. And this is probably as dark as Warner Brothers, I'm guessing, would be willing to go with these characters.
I agree. There's a certain like bar. And I will say the DC animated universe did a really good job. I mean, look that stuff up on like HBO Max. There's a ton of animated movies. I won't even get into the specifics, but look at stuff from like the last 10 years. Those went super dark, but again, they're animated and it's like direct to like streaming, direct to video. That's not like a major market, something that you're going to see on like bus stops and up on like posters and everything. So it's not just, if anybody's calling, foul on us, it's not that stuff doesn't get made, but just for mass market, universal appeal. Again, to your point, I think this is about as dark as it gets. But like, look at us 2 years from now. We're going to be like, oh my gosh, that gritty Turtles reboot.
Well, maybe they'll do The Last Ronin as a live action. We'll see.
We'll see.
Did you ever read Tower of Babel, Justice League? I would love that as a movie.
Yes, just drop us in. We know these characters. They just start interacting. And I think that's the freedom the animated films had. Yeah. We don't have to set a backstory. We don't have to X, Y, and Z. We can just like hit the ground running.
And just to tease everyone about what Tower of Babel is about, it's the Justice League finds themselves, each character of the Justice League finds themselves incapacitated And then you learn that someone is using Batman's contingency plans that he had set aside because he doesn't trust anyone. And the story is awesome.
It's a great setup. As we wrap this up, I'm going to quote our MVP, Batman Bruce Wayne. Redeeming this film may be the only thing I do that matters. Misunderstood movies are like weeds. Andreas, pull one up, another grows in its place. This is about the future of the world, and this is my legacy.
I don't think I can say anything else to that. That's amazing.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Real Demers. Seriously, if you have not seen this movie, give it a chance. And if you've seen it only in theatrical, I highly recommend the Ultimate Edition. I do think it makes a difference. If you enjoyed what you heard, please support us by leaving a like, subscribe, or review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. You can find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. If you want to reach out and send a comment, you can email us at realdemers@gmail.com. Our music is by Adolfo Delanoy, and you can check him out on Instagram at Adolfo Delanoy. Till next time.